Good morning, Rabbi Shmuel. Our learning this morning is dedicated by Avram and Shendi Kalman in commemoration of the archetype of Shendi's father, Yishai Yosef Ben Yosef, Levracha, as well as by the Esterson family in commemoration of the yahrzeits of their parents, Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchak Lee Ben Aaron Cohen, and Hinda Esterson, Hinda Bas Hanach Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah and the families a nechama. All right, I will say with that, another beautiful daf out of us today. Today's daf is Kuf Aleph 101. We are picking up on daf Kuf Amud Beis 100b, and we're picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. So remember again, we were discussing the statement of Shmuel. Well, we were discussing the Mishnah, and the Mishnah made the statement that Menachos, if they become Tameh, Menachos and Nesachim, if they became Tameh before they were consecrated in a Kli Sharis, they have the ability to be redeemed. Shmuel comes along and says, by the way, it's not a function of Tumah. Essentially, any mincha or any of the Nesachim, which before they are placed in a Kli Sharis, are redeemable. That's the idea. Before they're placed in a Kli Sharis, ultimately, again, can be redeemed. So says the Gemara, I'll say 4 lines up from the bottom. So the Shita Mikubetzes ultimately changes the gears of this next line, and the Shita Mikubetzes changes it to read Mishikitshu or Mishikitshu B'kli Einlem Pidyon. We'll say once the Menachos or the Nesachim are consecrated in the Kli Sharis, they no longer can be redeemed. To which the Gemara says Pshita. That's obvious. Kedushas Haguf Ninu. Let's remember again, one of the points we made in the Mishnah yesterday is that there are effectively 2 different types of sanctity. There's what's called Kedushas Damim and Kedushas Haguf. Financial sanctity versus physical sanctity. Anything which produces, which has or which possesses Kedushas Damim, monetary sanctity, can be redeemed. Anything which possesses Kedushas Haguf, for our purposes right now, cannot. So the Gemara says, obviously, if before the Menachos or the Nesachim were placed in a Kli Sharis, of course they could be redeemed. Why? Because they only possess financial sanctity, Kedushas Damim. And right, Pshita, Kedushas Haguf Ninu. I'm sorry. Once they are placed in the Kli Sharis, they cannot be redeemed. Why not? Because Kedushas Haguf Ninu. To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why this is necessary. Itzdirich, Sakadai Tchamina, Hoilu Ba'al Mum, Ikritame. So we'll say, I'm going to throw as follows. A Baal Mum, right, the animal which possesses a mum, is also called Tameh. We'll see where that is later on. Tameh Nami, Kebal Mum Dami. And therefore, I would have thought that we could equate the halachos of Tameh and Baal Mum. How so? So, and it comes, right? So, Tameh Nami, Kebal Mum Dami, Va'afagav, the Kadosh Kedushas Haguf, Kinafal Beimum, Mifrak. See, when it comes to a Baal Mum, even if the carbon has Kedushas Haguf, it can still be redeemed. Hani Nami Lifrok. Therefore, based on this comparison, I would have said that when something becomes Tameh, it can also be redeemed, even if what? Even if it was sanctified in a Kli Sharis. Kamash Malon, Delav Ki Hai Tameh Kar Yerachmana Lebalmum. Ultimately, again, says the Gemara, no, therefore, Kamash Malon, the comparison between Tameh and Balmum does not extend this far. Even though a Balmum can be redeemed, even after it possesses Kedushas Haguf, and even though a Tameh is compared to Balmum, so once a Tameh has been sanctified in a Kli Sharis, ultimately, again, it cannot be redeemed. In other words, the comparison between Tameh and Balmum does not allow you to deconsecrate it once it's been consecrated in a Kli Sharis. Top of Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph, the Kli Sharis la Ashkechan de Mifrek. Because ultimately, again, once an item has been consecrated within a Kli Sharis, ultimately, again, it cannot be redeemed. Uba'mum, hecha ikri tameh. Both say, where do we see that a ba'mum ultimately, again, is compared or is called tameh? In other words, where do we see that comparison? So by the way, just before we go on, so the point that the Gemara is making over here, based on what we're holding right now, is that once an item has been consecrated in a Kli Sharis, it is no longer redeemable. That seems to be where the Gemara is holding right now. The point of contention we're going to see is Shmuel's statement as to whether or not something prior to be consecrated, something prior to its consecration in a Kli Sharis, can it be redeemed even in a state of Tara, or is it only in a state of Tumah? So that point we're going to go ahead and clear just a little bit. But for our purposes right now, it seems to be clear that once an item is consecrated in a Kli Sharis, it is no longer subject to Pidyon. you cannot go ahead and redeem it. So we'll say, I think more just clarifies this secondary point. Where do we see that a balmum is called a tamei? This sanya, because we're in a brayso, ve'im kol behema tameya, asher lo yakrivu mimenu karban laHashem. So we'll say, so the pasuk says, if any behema tameya, that you will not offer up for it a carbon to Hashem. To which the Gemara says, bebali mumen sheniftin akasum medaber. The subject over here, when the Torah speaks about a behema tameya, is actually talking about a behema which is a balmum, which can be redeemed. So the Gemara says, "Ato omer bebali mumen sheniftu, o eino ela bebehema tameya mamish." So how do you know the pasuk is talking about bali mumen sheniftu? Maybe it's talking about a behema tameya mamish. Kishu omer v'im behema hatmeya upada be'erkecha. So we'll say, so the pasuk says in a different pasuk, ubehema tameya v'im behema hatmeya upada be'erkecha kesef v'yosef chamishi so'alav. So we'll say that pasuk hari behema tameya amura. That pasuk is explicitly talking about a behema tameya. Ha ma'ani mekayim v'im kol behema tameya. So we'll say, what do I assume that the pasuk is referring to when it said earlier v'im kol behema tameya? Be'ba'ali mumen sheniftu akosov medaber. So we'll say, I assume that is talking about what? Ba'ali mumen which were redeemed. To which the Gemara says, Be'ba'ali mumen sheniftu akosov medaber. Yachol yiftu al mum over. I might have thought that I could redeem a behema with a mum, even if it's a mum over. We'll say a mum over is a passing mum, i.e. a mum which presently goes ahead and invalidates the animal, but from which the animal will heal from naturally. And once the animal heals, the animal once again becomes fit. So this is actually very interesting. I might have thought that I could go ahead and redeem an animal based on its mum, even if it's a mum over, to which the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, Asher lo yakrivu mimenu karban laHashem. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says, what type of balmum is redeemable? Only the type of balmum which would permanently invalidate the animal from offering. Misha in a kreva laHashem kol ikar. So we'll say the only type of balmum animal that you have the ability to redeem is an animal that is permanently invalidated as a result of its mum. So the Gemara says, Yotzazu shena kreva hayom ukreva lemachar. This comes to exclude, we'll say what? The case of an animal which cannot be redeemed, which cannot be offered today, but can be offered tomorrow. That type of animal, we'll say, cannot be redeemed based on its mum. So this is actually very interesting halacha, that even though we establish that an animal which is a bal mum has the ability to be redeemed based on its mum, that is only what? That is only for a permanent blemish. But a mum over, which we'll say a passing mum, i.e. a mum, a disqualification, which will heal naturally. So the halacha is that an animal is not redeemable based on that mum. Actually, incredible halacha. So Mosif Rafuna Bar Menachos. So we'll say the Rafuna Bar Menachos now comes to argue. Now he's not arguing on the Bal Mum piece. He's arguing on Shmuel. So remember again, Shmuel comes along. Shmuel said before in the opening statement of the Gemara, that's what Shmuel says, that you have the ability to redeem even a tahar mincha or nesachim, as long as what? It has not yet been placed in the klishari. So we'll say very important halacha. The Mishnah said that if you have menachos or nesachim, which become tamei, you have the ability to redeem them before they are placed in the klisharis. That was the Mishnah statement. Shmuel came along and said, you could redeem them even if what? Even if they're not tamei. So we'll say, according to Shmuel, the operative piece over here is not whether or not the menachos or the nesachim are tameim. What's the important part over here? The important part is, have they been placed in a klisharis or not? As long as the mincha or the nesach has not yet been placed in a klisharis, then what? You can be poded, you can redeem it, even if it's tahar. That was Shmuel's contribution so far. It's that as long as it has not yet been placed in a klisharis, even if it's tahar, it could still be redeemed. Good. Comes along Rav Huna Bar Menachos and argues on this. Watch this. It's a very interesting discussion. Moses Rav Huna Bar Menachos. Ha'ofos v'ha'itzim v'halavono klishari shenitmu inlan pidyon. So Rav Huna Bar Menachos comes along and says as follows. If you have bird offerings, ofos, birds, eitzim is wood, levona, frankincense, klisharis is a service utensil, any of these items shenitmu, which have become ritually impure, what's the halacha? Ein lehem pidyon. Rabbi say you cannot redeem them. You cannot redeem them. Why not? Shelo no'emar pidyon ela bebehema. Because we'll say the notion of pidyon, the notion of redeeming something. What does redemption mean? Redemption means that you transfer the sanctity onto the money. The money becomes kadosh, right? Therefore used for something sacrificial. And what happens to the object? Object becomes chulin, right? Becomes unconsecrated. So we'll say, Srafuna Bar Noach says that the concept of pidyon was only said by behema, was not said by other items. Says the Gemara Bishlama Ofos, Kedushas Haguf Ninhu, so v'lo ne'amar ela bebehema. So we'll say, I understand why you can't redeem birds, because birds, like animals, like behemoths, also have Kedushas Haguf, and the notion of Kedushas Haguf being redeemed was only a concept stated by behema, doesn't apply to Ofos. So we'll say, we'll just call that Exeres HaKosav. I understand that. Right? Therefore, again, however, ela eitzim ulevono klishares lifriku. We'll say, I don't understand, why can't the wood, now we'll say, when we speak about wood, bepashtos, this is the wood ultimately, again, that is used on the Mizbeach. Levona is the frankincense. Klishares, why can't those items be redeemed? In other words, we'll say, what prevents them from being redeemed? Elalav mishum de tahorin ba'alma ein niftin. Rather, we'll say, what you have to say is because in general, items which are tahor cannot be redeemed. V'hani nami abagav denitmu kitahorim dami. And it must be that these items, even when they become tameh, have the status of something which is tahor, and therefore again are prevented ultimately again from being redeemed. So we'll say, so what the Gemara is suggesting over here, this is the kasha ultimately again on Shmuel. What this is saying is that the only time I will say you have the ability to redeem things is when, this is actually very interesting. What is the whole yisod of pidyon? See, this is really getting down to the kishkas as to what pidyon is. What's redemption? Is redemption just simply a mechanism that allows for transference of kedusha from an object to money, and you can use it pretty much whenever you want? Or is pidyon a mechanism that is only activated in a situation of need? What's an example of a situation of need, Rabosai? For example, tumah, right? Meaning what you would do is, by tumah, you would transfer the sanctity ultimately onto the money, thereby freeing the item ultimately of its sanctity, freeing it to be used for something chulin because it can't be used for something sacrificial. So I will say, so this is getting to the core. So Shmuel seemed to say, you can activate pidyon whenever you want. See, even if you have nesachim, even if you have menachos, ultimately, again, that are totally tar, you could transfer their sanctity onto money, and ultimately, again, make the menachos and the nesachim into what? Into something chulin. Rav Huna Bar Noach says no. We'll say ultimately again, pidyon is only something that is activated when the object is tameh. But it could very well be that these items like eitzim, levona, klisharis always have the status of quote unquote tahor items, and tahor items can never be redeemed. The eitzim levona lav b'nei ashvuyein ochlaninhu. So it's because remember, eitzim and levona never have the status of anything consumable. Right, so because they never have the status of something, elo chibas hektish mashilu uchla. But we'll say ultimately what we call chibas hektish. If you look at Rashi, eitzim ulevona lav b'nei kibulei tumaninu elo mishum chibas hakodesh techsei ba'abasal rabos eitzim ulevona. So we'll say really, wood and levona should never be receptive to tumah. It's only because they can become consecrated that they have the ability to be makabel tumah. Kama delo mashbi luhu ligzirin. Lo miskashri. So we'll say, as long as the wood has not yet been literally shaved off to be pieces of her for the mizbeach. We'll say on the mizbeach itself, you don't just throw any piece of wood on the mizbeach. Rather, again, you have to shave it down to certain dimensions. So as long as that wood has ultimately, again, not been shaved down to those dimensions, it's not mekabel tumah. Levona nami kama delo kidsha b'kli sharis. Lo miskashra, so levona, same thing Rabbi say, as long as the levona has not yet been put into a klisharis, which for the levona or the bazich or the actual spoons as to which it's put in. Nami hol v'isli tara, so I'm sorry, levona nami kamadol kidsha b'klisharis, lo miskashra, klisharis, nami hol v'islu tara b'mikva. So ultimately klisharis also is not going to be makabel tumah. Why? Because it has the ability ultimately to what? Or I should say it's not redeemable. because it has the ability to be kashered in a mikvah. So we'll say, so all of this is Rav Huna Barman, or it really is Rav Huna Bar Manoach's kasha and Shmuel. Shmuel, you wanted to say that even items in a state of tara have the ability to be redeemed. Rav Huna Bar Manoach brings these cases to show that in fact is not true. To which the Gemara says, lo. Liolam emelacha taharim ba'alma niftin. I can say that no, Shmuel is correct, and even items, when they are in a state of tara, can in fact be redeemed. So Rabbi says, so what's happening over here in these cases, in these situations that Rav Huna Bar Manoach quoted, of Ophos, Eitzim, Levona, Klisharis, where even again Rabbi says, if what, Shenitmu Einlan Pidyon, to which the Gemara says, Vahani Mishum de lo Shchichihu. We'll say these cases are different. These cases ultimately, again, of Ophos, Eitzim, Levona, Klisharis, are what we call lo shchichi cases, uncommon cases. What's lo shchichi about it? Look at Rashi, we'll say, Mishum de lo shchichi, vihaviluhu pidyon. So we'll say lo shchichi in this case actually means that these are items which are hard to come by. These are items which are hard to come by. So this is actually amazing. Because they are items which are hard to come by, therefore what? We do not want you redeeming them. We'll say, why don't we want you redeeming them? It's actually quite fancy. Why don't we want you redeeming them? Because we're afraid that if we allow you to redeem them, then what does that do? That transfers the sanctity onto the money, makes the actual object schulin, and we are concerned that we will be unable to find suitable replacements for these items. So because it is hard to come by these particular items, the rabbi stepped in and the rabbi said, what? You cannot redeem them. You cannot redeem them. Look at Rashi. If we allow you to go ahead and redeem these items, tahorin, in a state of tara, parek luhu l'chulin, you're going to redeem them, they're going to become chulin. V'sulo mishkechi gizbarin midi achrina l'tzarach ha'avoda. And ultimately, again, the gizbarin, the temple treasurers, will be unable to find suitable replacements. So we'll say this is actually amazing. So Rav Huna Bar Manoach quoted this list of Ophos, Eitzim, Levon, and Klisharis, and he wanted to use it as a raya against Shmuel, to say that you see, you cannot redeem things in a state of tara. You cannot redeem things in a state of tara. Therefore, I will say, comes along the Gemara and says, no. It's true you cannot redeem these things, but for a dramatically different purpose. You can't redeem these things. Why? Because they're uncommon. And we're afraid that if we allow you to redeem them, you may not find suitable replacements. To which the Gemara says, well, let's analyze this. Bishtama levona ukli lo shchichi. So I understand why levona. Right? There was a good, pure frankincense. Apparently, was hard to come by. Kli sharis. I will say again, kli sharis, depending what type of kli sharis it is, could be very expensive. I understand why those items might be lo shchichi. However, again, ela itzim mishkach shchichi. We'll say, why would you say that wood is hard to come by? Or is he going to tell me I can't redeem wood because what are we afraid of? We're afraid that if we allow you to redeem the wood, then what's going to happen? Rabbi say, you're not going to find other suitable wood. Wood is common, right? Wood is wood, right? Wood is common and accessible everywhere. So what's the listen to this? Eitzim nami. We'll say sacrificial wood is also hard to come by. Why? The Chayvan Damar call eitz shenim sabot tola as posel legabi mizbeach hilchalo shrichi. Rabbi say, as Mar said, that's what? Any piece of wood, Rabbi say, which you find what? A worm. Any piece of wood in which you find a worm, even one worm, ultimately invalidates the wood for sacrificial purposes. Therefore, Rabbi say, it's not easy to come by sacrificial wood. Therefore, again, Rabbi say, wood for the mizbeach is considered to be lo shchichi. Amar Papa. So we'll say, so therefore it turns out that Rav Huna Bar Manoach's kasha on Shmuel was in fact not a kasha. And Shmuel's statement still stands that it appears that you have the ability to go ahead and be poda, Menachos and Nisachim, as long as what? They have not yet been placed in the Kli Sharis. Even if they're tar, you could redeem them. What about the list that Rav Huna Bar Manoach brought? We'll say apparently those items are not redeemable midrabanan. Why? Because they're lo shchichi. Because they're more uncommon, more unique, more expensive. And Chazal were concerned that if we allow you to redeem them, you may not find suitable replacements. Amar Papa, Ishmiel le Shmuel had desanya. So we'll say, Rav Papa comes along and says as follows: if Shmuel would have heard the following brisa, he might have had a different opinion. We'll say, what's the brisa? Desanya. Hamat bistimim lebedek habayis. We'll say if a person goes ahead and brings animals, right? Mat bismin Rabbi literally means a person consecrates animals lebedek habayis. Rabbi bedek habayis means temple upkeep. So I can go ahead and pledge something lebedek habayis. What happens when you pledge something lebedek habayis? Essentially, again, the item has what we call kedushas damim. It has financial sanctity. Financial sanctity, not physical sanctity, financial sanctity. So mat bismin lebedek habayis. We'll say in this case, I'm doing something very interesting. I am pledging animals for bedek habayis. So we'll say, what happens over here is not for carbonic purposes. So these are not karbanos. I'm pledging, I'm giving livestock to the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, so those animals take on a financial sanctity. Ein poldinos son elam mizbeach. So we'll say, you can only redeem those animals for sacrificial use. Rashi says, sheimachru l'tzarchei kamas. So we'll say, which means what? So let's play this out. I take my sheep. I pledge it lebedek habayis. So what does the Beis Hamikdash do with that sheep? They sell the sheep, I will say, but for what? For what? For sacrificial purposes, and then use that money for temple upkeep. That animal may not be sold for mundane purposes, even though what? Even though what? It only has kedushas damim, not kedushas haguf. Shakal arayil mizbeach and yotzi midei mizbeach liolam. Because we'll say something that is fit for the mizbeach cannot be used for something other than mizbeach forever. Now, what's the clincher? Va'af agav di kedushas damim ninhu ein niftin hoil utahorim heimava. So we'll say, listen to this. Because why? Because since that animal belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, i.e. it has kedushas damim, and it's tahor, it's technically fit for sacrificial use. It cannot be redeemed for something mundane. Therefore, the Beis Hamikdash takes the animal, sells it essentially to someone who needs to bring a carbon, and uses that money ultimately again for bedek habayis. Rabbi say, what do you see from here? You see from here that something which belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, even if it only has kedushas damim, cannot be redeemed for chulin purposes. Rabbi say, whose opinion does this contradict? None other than Shmuel. Because Shmuel told us in the beginning of Kuf Amud Beis that what? That if you have Menachos and Yisachim, which I will say have not yet been put in a Kli Sharis, Shmuel suggested that you could redeem it even for chulin purposes. Here we're seeing that once something belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, even if it's only kedushas damim, you may not go ahead and use it for chulin. B'vaharaya, even those animals which are pledged for bedek habayis can be sold, but only can be sold ultimately again for sacrificial purposes. To which the Gemara says, Hadarbe. Einachinami, Shmuel retracted his opinion, he changed his mind. The Gemara says, Velohi, it's not true. Shmiya le velo Hadarbe, it's not true. We'll say, Shmuel knew this brisa, and he still didn't change his mind. Lav Amrit Hasam, did we not say over there, Kevan de Shchichi Mumin, de Pasli bebehema, Afilu bedukin Shebai Nami Pasli, Hilchach lo Shchichi. We'll say, Kishmuel, we'll say, back to what we just saw in the previous sugya of Rav Huna Bar Manuach, which is what Rabbi say, is sacrificial animal, Rabbi say, is considered to be something lo shchichi, uncommon. Rabbi say, why is a sacrificial animal considered to be something uncommon? Because Rabbi say, so many things invalidate an animal for sacrificial purposes. Afilu beduki shar, Rabbi say, beduki shar means literally like a cataract or a cut in the eye. Something so minor would invalidate that animal. Therefore, if you find an animal which is fit for sacrificial purposes, what's the halacha Rabbi say? That is considered to be an item that is lo shchichi. Even Shmuel agrees that with items that are hard to come by, you may not go ahead and redeem them. But this brisa is not iraya against the position of Shmuel. Rav Kana says, Amar, Tzmeya niftin, Torah ein niftin. So we'll say Rav Kana does argue on Shmuel. So we'll say now another opinion. Rav Kana says, when can you redeem the Menachos and the Nesachim before they even placed in the Kli Sharis? That's only if what? That's only if they are Tameh. They can be redeemed, but not if they are Tahar. V'chinu Rav Oshia Tzmeya niftin, Torah ein niftin. Rav Oshia said the same thing. Ikadar Rav Oshia. Others have an alternate version. Amar Rav Oshia afilu Tahor niftin. So Rav Oshia, in this version, Rav Oshia said, even if they are Tahar, they could be pod, they could be redeemed. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Kulan Timeyan Niftin, Tahorin Ein Niftin. Rabbi Elazar makes a general statement. Any item, Rabbosai, can only be redeemed if it is Tameh, but if it is Tahor, you cannot redeem it, even if what? Even if what? It has not yet been placed in the Kli Sharis. Chutz me'asiris ha'efa shal minchas chote. What's with one exception? The one exception, Rabbosai, is the asira sa'ifa of the sin offering of a mincha. That when a mincha ultimately again is brought as a sin offering, that mincha, that asira sa'ifa can be redeemed even if it is tahor. Shahare amra Torah mechataso al chataso. So also Rashi goes through this drasha a bit more, but essentially a mechataso al chataso. That there are certain, the drasha essentially is that there are certain chatas offerings which can be redeemed even in a state of tara, and that particular chatas offering is the asira sa'if of the minchas chote. Okay, Amr Boshia, Shamati, Pigul b'mincha Rabbi Shimon, Eino matami tumas ochin. So also Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, I have heard that Pigul b'mincha, that I will say ultimately again, if the mincha itself becomes Pigul, so that does not become, according to I'm sorry, I just lost the place here. I'm sorry. Pigul b'mincha Rabbi Shimon Eino matami tumas ochin. The Rabbi say if the mincha becomes pigul, according to Rabbi Shimon, it doesn't become tamei. What does this mean? Look at Rashi. The Rabbi Shimon, Damar lekaman kala asra ba'ana inu matami tumasochin. So we'll say we're going to see Rabbi Shimon's opinion in just a moment. But Rabbi Shimon is the opinion who says that anything that is asra ba'ana does not contract tumas ochlin. So the Gemara says this nan. Here we go. Here's the Mishnah. Ha'arla uklaya kerem. So we'll say arla, which refers to fruit of the first 3 years. Klaya kerem, which means forbidden growths within a vineyard. Amadeus, v'shar haniskal. We'll say shar niskal is a shar that is going to be stoned because it is a goring shar. Right? So Rashi says over here, the case that by shar niskal that we're dealing with is sheshachto la'achar shenigmar dino. So we'll say this is talking about a shar that was already condemned to die, but it was shechted before it was actually executed. Egla arufa, sipore mitzora. So we'll say egla arufa is the decapitated calf. Ultimately, again, when you find the dead body in between two cities, the elders of the closest city come. Now we'll say always can we see decapitated calf? It was the calf that was designated to be decapitated, but was shechted before the actual process and procedure was carried out. Upeter chamor, firstborn donkey, I will say that was going to have its neck broken, but ultimately again was shechted before the neck was broken. Ubasar b'chalav and basar b'chalav, kulam mitamin tumas ochlin. We'll say all of these items have the ability to contract tumas ochlin. Rabbi Shimon says kulam ein mitamin tumas ochlin. Rabbi Shimon says no, not true. None of these items have the ability to be mitamin tumas ochlin. I will say now the logic of the Rashi already said this. Rav Shimon's logic, we're going to see it spelled out in just a moment, but Rav Shimon's logic is any food item which is asr ba'ana cannot become tamei tumas ochlin. The common denominator saying all of these items that are mentioned is they're all asr ba'ana. Because they're asr ba'ana, therefore again they cannot contract tumas ochlin. And Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, Rabbi Shimon says that basar b'chalav, Rabbi say, does become tamei tumas ochlin. Why? Hoyo v'haisalo shasa kosher. Ultimately, again, because there was a time when the basar b'chalav was permitted. Look at Rashi. Rabbi say basar b'chalav. Oh, actually, hoyo v'haisalo shasa kosher. Di toru le'kula yoma b'chalba lo misr achiz bashu. Rabbi say, what does this mean? Basar b'chalav had a time when it was permitted. When was it permitted? Rabbi say that if you were to go ahead, see, presumably, before you cook the meat and the milk together, what do you have to do? You have to put the meat in the milk. Well, see what happens when you put meat in milk? What happens? You let it soak there? No, it tastes good, thank you. Right? What happens when you put it in there? Well, say, the halacha is nothing. Let's say actually it's coming attractions, chulin. I just want to tell you, you thought Menachos is exciting? Wait till we get to chulin, because we'll say so much of Yeridea, we're going to see basar b'chalav, all the halachas, basar b'chalav, shchita, all come from chulin. So we'll say the halacha is that basar b'chalav only becomes basar b'chalav when it is cooked together. So for example, if you were to go ahead and take a hamburger and to put a piece of cheese on top of it, right? Of course, chalav Yisrael cheese. You were to put chalav, right? You were to put a piece of cheese on top of it. They're both saying you were to eat it. What's the halacha? Right? it's Asr Midirabanan. That is only Basar B'chalav Midirabanan. Right? Now again, obviously Asr. Let's go on record with that, right? Asr, unequivocally Asr, but Asr Midirabanan. Why? Because Basar B'chalav D'Oraisa, Rabbi says, is only when you cook milk and meat together. So Rabbi Shimon says over here that by Basar B'chalav, Howard, you look too excited about this. Way too excited about this, right? So remember, so Shimon says over here that what? He says that Basar B'chalav did have a time when it was permitted. When was it permitted, Rabbi say? When you put the meat into the milk and it's soaked there. Rabbi say, now Rashi happens to say something very interesting. Rashi says, because even if you soaked the meat and the milk there all day it does not become asr. Now Rabbi say, we're going to see, by the way, that statement of Rashi is not exactly precise. Because there is a concept, ultimately, again, of kavush, that if you soak any solid in a liquid for a certain amount of time, how much time we're going to see is machlokes in the Gemara, there is a bishul process that occurs. So what Rashi just means when he says kuli yoma, he just means for a long time, that you could place the milk in the meat, or the meat into the milk, and nothing happens. So even Rosh Shimon's shita is, in order for a food item, ultimately, again, to be makabel tumah, it has to have a point when it was permitted. So Basar B'chalav did have a point when it was permitted. So my time Reb Shimon. We'll say what's Shimon's logic. He says as follows: Mikala ochel asher yachal. So we'll say, so the pasuk says as follows: Mikala ochel asher yachal. We'll say this is by the pasuk that speaks about tumas ochlin. So the pasuk says Mikala ochel asher yachal asher yaval of my yitma. So we'll say, what is the type of item, food item, which is makabel tumah? And the answer is Mikal ha'ochel asher. This is an incredible drasha. Mikal ha'ochel asher yachal. Shimon says the only type of food item that is makabel tumah has to satisfy the criteria of Mikal ha'ochel asher yachel, from the type of food which is eaten. Ochel shata yachol lachil lachirim kari ochel. A type of food that you can give to eat to others is called ochel. Ochel shiata yachol lachil lachirim. Eino karoi ochel. We'll say any type of food item which you can't give to others. We'll say, what type of food item can you give to others? At least a food item that's consumable. But if it's not consumable, ultimately again, it's aser ba'ana. Therefore, again, it will not be makabel tumah. V'ha pigol b'mincha nami ochel shiata yochalachi l'lachirimhu. So we'll say ultimately again, this pigul by mincha, which was the case that we started out before, when the mincha becomes pigul, right? Ultimately is a case of food which cannot be fed to anyone else. If it can't be fed to anyone else, therefore what? I.e. is asr ba'ana, therefore it is not mekabel tumah. To which the Gemara says, if that's the case, ihachi basar b'chalav nami tepokle the ochel sha'ata yachol lachi l'achirimu. We'll say ultimately again, basar b'chalav should also be a case where what? Where halacha lamaisa, ultimately again, I could feed it to others. So the Gemara says, Disan Rabbi Shimon Omer Mishum Basar B'chalav Asr Ba'achila Umutter Ba'ana. They both say, now I'll tell you something very interesting. This is going to be another machlokes we're going to spend some time on in Chulun, which is what is the nature of the Isser of Basar B'chalav. So just point out over here, everyone agrees that what? That it is Asr to go ahead and eat Basar B'chalav. But interesting, from Shimon Yehuda says it is mutter ba'ana, right? So we'll say this. There is an opinion who holds that a Jew cannot eat it, but absolutely I can go ahead and give it to my Gentile neighbor, or I can give it to my animal, or I can get any kind of benefit from it that I want. Shneimar ki am kadosh ato Hashem Elokecha lo siva shel gidi b'chaliv imo. So we'll say the pasuk says by speaking about the prohibition law, right? Basar basadeh. I'm sorry. So also the pasuk says, "You are a sanctified nation to Hashem your God. Do not cook the kid in its mother's milk." We'll say, what's the pasuk right after that? We'll say the next pasuk. We'll say it's the pasuk by treifa. What's the pasuk by treifa? The pasuk by treifa is an animal that dies without proper shechita. So what's the halacha? We'll say what's the halacha with the treifa? What happens if you have an animal carcass? What can you do with it? What can you do with it? Pretty much anything you want, except what? Except eat it. So we'll say, so there's a juxtaposition, Rabbi Shimon says, a juxtaposition between basar b'chalav and treifa. Well, say just as the treifa, you cannot eat it, but you are permitted to get benefit from it. Afkan asr b'achila mutabana. So I will say by basar b'chalav, it is asr b'achila mutabana. So we'll say, so you see from here that again, according to Rabbi Shimon, in Rabbi Shimon's logic, Reb Shimon, Reb Shimon wanted to say that halacha l'maisa basar b'chalav ultimately is mutter ba'ano. Why? Because what's that? Remember, it was all in Reb Shimon. In Reb Shimon's world, I'm sorry, let me see it differently. In Reb Shimon's world, when is a food item mekabel tuma? What is it mekabel tuma? When it had a shas hakosher, when it had a time that it was permitted for use. That's based on the pasuk that says, the mikala ochel asher yachel. If the food was consumable or feedable, so to speak, to someone else, then it's mekabel tuma. So Reb Shimon said that halacha l'maisa what? Halacha l'maisa, basar b'chalav was permitted at some point in time. When was it permitted? When the meat was sitting in the milk before it was cooked together. To which the Gemara says, but 1 second, I don't understand. But according to Reb Shimon, basar b'chalav Rabbosai ultimately is going to be makabel tuma for another reason, which is what? In Reb Shimon's model, basar b'chalav is mutter ba'ana. So Reb Shimon also says Rabbosai that any food item that is mutter ba'ana is makabel tuma. If that's the case, who cares that basar b'chalav was consumable when the meat was soaking in the milk? It's mutter ba'ana. That's what Reb Shimon would say that it's makabel tuma. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Chada va'ot ka'amar. Reb Shimon is actually saying two reasons. Number one, basar b'chalav in its original state when the meat is sitting in the milk is consumable. V'od l'didei nami haiselo shasa kosher. And furthermore, even according to Reb Shimon himself, Rabbosai, again, it had a shasa kosher, and that ultimately, again, it is mutter ba'ano. Good. So Rabbosai, so this, remember, this is all the Gemara just focusing. Now, obviously, we know we don't paskin that way. We paskin that halacha l'maisa, the fact that the Torah repeats the prohibition of lo sevashel gedi bechalivimo 3 times, tells us one is an Isser Bishul, you're not allowed to cook it. One is an Isser Achila, you can't eat it. And number 3 is an Isser Hana. You cannot get any benefit from it. That's how we paskin by Basar B'chalav. So Meisvei, Gemara Reiz Kasha, Reb Shimon Omer, Reb Shimon says, Yesh no ser shum etami tumas ochlin. There is a type of no ser Rabbosai, which can become tami tumas ochlin. V'yesh no ser she'ino etami tumas ochlin. And Rabbosai, there is a no ser, which does not become tamei tumas ochlin. What does this mean? Keitzad lon lifnei zrika in tamei tumas ochlin. Ultimately, again, it will say if the sacrificial item experienced lina, remained past its prescribed window, and you left it sitting even before zrika occurred, eno tamei tumas ochlin. Rabbosai, in that case, ultimately, again, it does not become tamei tumas ochlin. Why not, Rabbosai? Because remember, before Zrika, Rashi points out, it never had a shasa kosher. It was never permitted. Because Zrika is the matir. If ultimately, again, there was no Zrika, then what? Then the item cannot become tamei tumas ochlin. La'achar Zrika, tamei tumas ochlin. But ultimately, again, if it sat after Zrika, Rabbosai, if it sat after Zrika, then halacha l'maisa, it can become tamei tumas ochlin. I b'hapigol. Bein b'kadshe kadoshim, bein b'kadshe kalim inu matami tumas ochlin. But I will say by pigol, ultimately again, whether kadshe kadoshim, whether kadshim kalim, ultimately again it does not become tamei tumas ochlin. Pigol b'mincha matami tumas ochlin. But I will say pigol b'mincha, ultimately again it can become tumas ochlin, can become tamei tumas ochlin. Lo kasha. So what's happening over here? What's that contradiction? Kan shais la shasa kosher, kan shalo hais la shasa kosher. So we'll say one case is talking about where there was a point in time where the meat was permitted. One was a point in time where there was no shasa kosher. So we'll say, what's the case? Hechi dami to lo haisela shasa kosher. We'll say, what's the case ultimately again where it never had a shasa kosher? To which the Gemara says, by Menachos, that is, dak tishinu b'mechuber. Ultimately again, I will say where what? Where you mekadish the grain while it was still attached to the ground. So if you're mekadish the grain while it was still attached to the ground, then halacha l'maisa never had a shasa kosher. I velifrakinu. So why don't you just redeem it? If you look at Rashi very quickly, velifrakinu. Kilomar v'hak kodim shekachu bekli yachal ifdosan laochlin v'ishkachu lavishas kosher hanich lahach lishna dam raboshia temei a niftin torn a niftin shapir. So what's according to the version of Ravoshia that says that if it's tamei it can be redeemed, but if it's tar it can't be redeemed, then this makes sense. What's according to the version that says that even if the item is tar, it could still be redeemed. So why not redeem it in this case? V'hashta miolo parik v'cheivan di iboy parikle shami le Reb Shimon damakala omi liftos kipadu demer. So we'll say, and if you hold that it can be redeemed, then certainly it should be kadosh. Why? Because or should be tar, because Reb Shimon holds. Will say anything which can be redeemed is considered as if what it has already been redeemed. This sanya. Rabbi Shimon Omer, para mitame tumas ochlin, hoil v'haisalo shasa kosher. But say the para aduma, even though it's Asher Ba'ana now, Rav Shimon holds that it has the ability to be Mitami Tumas Ochlin, that if you were to shecht it, it can be Mitami Tumas Ochlin. Why? Because it had a Shasa Kosher. Because we'll say at the end of the day, it had a time when it was permitted. Vamrei Shlakish, Omer Hayir Rav Shimon, Para Niftis Agabi Ma'arachta. The para can be redeemed, Rabbi say, even when it is sitting on, even if it was shechted, right? Shechted in the right way, and it's sitting ultimately on top of the ma'areches, it could still be redeemed. Hachi hashta, pishtama para omedes liftosi, shematza acheres nohemena mitzvah liftosa. So we'll say paradum is different. Why? Because ultimately, again, if it's built into para that if you found a nicer para, you would automatically substitute the nicer one for the original one. Elahani menachos mitzvah lifdosan. But I will say ultimately, again, by these other menachos, is there a mitzvah to redeem them? V'halon lifnei zrika, the mitzvah lemizrike. But I will say, if you set it up in the case as we saw before, that if it's sitting before Zrika, the mitzvah is okay, where there is a still mitzvah to do Zrika, the Baizarak, and if it's one of those Zrika, you have the ability to do so. The Katoni de'in metame tumas ochlin, and obviously you said before, and you said that it does not become tame tumas ochlin. Hachama askin, I will say, what's the case over here? Shalo haisa shaus bayom lemizrika. But so you have to set up the case as a case where there wasn't enough time to go ahead and do this zrika. Ava haisa lo shahus biyom. But I will say, if you had enough time, ultimately again to do this zrika, my timer. What would be the reason? My timer tumas ochlin. Adatani lon la'achar zrika metami tumas ochlin liflog bididei. I will say, why don't you go ahead and subdivide the case itself? The Medramurim, when is this true? Shalo haisalo shos bayom, that there wasn't enough time to do this Rika by day. Aval haisalo shos bayom, metame tumas ochlin. But we'll say if there wasn't enough time during the day, then ultimately again the item should become tame tumas ochlin. Hachi nami kamar. We'll say this is what it means to say hachi kamar kamalon kodem shira lizrika eno metame tumas ochlin. We'll say before ultimately again it is fit for zrika, it does not become tame tumas ochlin. La'achar shir l'zrika v'tami tumas ochlin. Rabbi say ultimately again after it becomes fit for zrika, even if the zrika is not yet done, it becomes tumei tumas ochlin. Rabbi, so we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Emirat Hashem with this sugya. Rabbi say, so just understand now with the Gemara is ending off with. I know we did that last part a little bit quickly. I apologize, but now we're ending off with over here is whether or not again being fit for avoda renders it as if the avoda was done. In which case, again, it would convey to it a Tumas Ochlin or not. And we'll pick up with that tomorrow. There is a Shiva minion at 7026.